Rape, sexual assault is horrific. If anyone here knows or in themselves is a survivor, it is horrific. And our response needs to immediately be one of compassion and an eagerness to support and advocacy for anybody who goes through that or who has been hurt in any way. Though if a woman gets pregnant because of an act of violence, whether it's incest or rape, that is also, again, horrific that she went through that. But now we're dealing with a scenario where there is a new, innocent third party involved. There is a child involved. And the penalty for that rape should be 100% on the rapist, should be 100% on the abuser. They need to be held fully accountable for their crime. But we don't even give the death penalty to rapists in this country. In fact, it's prohibited by federal law. So why do we give the death penalty, or why would we give the death penalty to that innocent third party, to that little child in the womb? And when you actually... And when you actually unpack what a rape survivor goes through, and we've done the studies that we have, the few studies we have, because here's the thing, abortion advocates say, well, because of rape, we need abortion to be legal, right? Well, rape, incest, life, health of the mother issues is less than 1%. But they try to justify all the abortions with this, right? We need abortion to be legal because of this. But you actually talk to women who have been survivors of rape. We interview them all the time at Live Action. Women who are and girls who are survivors of rape and survivors of incest. And they say that abortion, for those that have abortions, it didn't help them heal. It wasn't a path of healing for them. It was a second act of violence and trauma against them. And it didn't undo the rape. Abortion doesn't unrape the woman. It's just more trauma and more violence. And the women that have chosen life after rape, that weren't pressured, a lot of the times rape survivors are pressured. It's like, duh, have an abortion. It's like, maybe that's not the best path for her either. And those that have had and chosen life, many of them say, God brought something beautiful out of something so dark and so ugly. So I think we need to change our paradigm on this, respecting the right to live of the child, but also not seeing abortion as some sort of healing or path to freedom from trauma for the woman. Instead, it can add more trauma to her. I think that's the compassionate thing to do. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Is a lot of my friends, they go to private girls' schools, and I feel like the constant argument that I get with them is, oh, I agree with abortion, but up to when the heartbeat starts, or up to when this starts.
Sure.
And I guess defining what a fetus is to them really triggers them. So I was wondering what I could do to get around this and kind of rebuttal them.
Sure, so there's two arguments for that. First is the stage of development. When leftists call a baby a fetus and say that a fetus is not a baby, by definition, it's different. That's a stupid argument because a fetus is simply a term that identifies the stage of development. You know, it starts with a zygote and then an embryo and then a fetus and then a baby when it's born. But the terms for stages of development continue after birth. You have a newborn, you have an infant, you have a toddler, you have a child, you have an adolescent, you have an adult, you have, geriatric. I mean, it's just a term. I think that's a real one. It's just a stage of development, but does that stage of development mean that that baby is not a human? Is it a different species? Because if not, then the stage of development is completely irrelevant. That would be answer A. Answer B, if you're talking about the viability argument is just a humbling reminder to us, and I mean the entire human race, that we have not yet perfected the science and art of medicine. Because viability changes, and it has throughout the course of modern medicine. We used to not be able to save a baby's life if that baby was born prematurely. Now, if a baby is born at, I think it's 23 weeks, we have a chance of saving that baby's life outside of the womb. So viability doesn't determine the humanity of that baby, because viability is on a spectrum that we as human beings are chasing. We are trying to develop technology that reduces the number of weeks at which we can define viability. And again, that has nothing to do whatsoever with humanity, unless your friends know something I don't know.
Thank you.
Sure.
That's not what we're talking about. In the vast majority of abortions, the truth is, unfortunately, that women don't actually believe they are killing a child. They actually believe they are killing something that is non-human and is the same thing as removing a tumor or something.
So, but are you saying that you don't think abortion is murder then? Because there are.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that I'm saying that the vast majority of women who obtain abortions don't think that abortion is murder, and intent is a fundamental element in any criminal prosecution. I feel horrible for women who have abortions. I think that it's terrible for them. I think it's a lot worse for the baby,
but
obviously.
I think what's key is that you said a vast majority, right? There are women out there who know that it is a child.
And you make law and public policy based on the vast majority, not on the outlying case.
Yeah, but then you can't make a claim that abortion is the same as murder if you wouldn't treat them the same in public policy or in law.
No, I absolutely can, because there are many types of murder, right? I mean, there's manslaughter. Yeah. There's unintentional murder.
I mean, like, what would your standards be?
So the doctor knows. That's why I'm saying the doctor has the mens rea. The doctor has the actual intent to commit a murder, because the doctor full well knows that that is a baby in there whose beating heart he or she is stopping.
So indirect manslaughter.
What was that?
So you would put them on trial for indirect manslaughter.
I would put Kermit Gosnell on trial for first-degree murder. You know, I would put abortionists on trial for either second-degree murder or manslaughter. I mean, this is a crime against humanity that's occurring. And if you believe that, obviously, to be ideologically consistent, you have to say that. And this has been, again, the traditional pro-life position. I'm not aware of any major pro-lifer in America who believes that women should be put on trial for abortion.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Caroline. I'm a senior, proud liberal. My question.
Well, thank you for coming.
Yes, of course.
Whenever somebody on the left comes to one of my lectures, it's like an AA meeting. It's like, thank you, Caroline, for coming.
So my question is, since you believe abortion is the same as murder, do you believe women who get abortions, even when their lives or the child's life isn't in danger, should be put on trial for murder? Yes or no?
I think abortionists should be put on trial.
But I mean,
I don't think that women should be put on trial for a couple of different reasons. So the first reason is because I don't think that it is effective in deterring abortion to put women on trial for the killing of the unborn. The second reason is because I think that we in our society have unfortunately gotten to such a point that an entire generation have been indoctrinated to believe, particularly an entire generation of women, since that's what we're talking about here, have been indoctrinated to believe that a baby is a polyp, and so when they remove it, I'm not sure there's the actual mens rea necessary, the actual criminal intent necessary for a prosecution. So when we're talking about, you know, the typical pro-life position here has been that the woman is a victim in abortion nearly as much as the baby is, that there's an entire abortion industry that is geared toward teaching women that babies are not babies, and that getting a baby aborted is in fact a betterment of their life. So no, I'm not in favor of prosecuting women for abortions.
First of all, thank you all for staying so long to hear us out. I'm here to oppose this bill as well. One of the most concerning things for me when I first saw this bill was the speed that was brought forward and the timely manner in which it revealed itself. I found it to be uncanny parallel political thinking when 3 states can pass a very similar bill, or introduce a very similar bill within the span of 2 months directly after a midterm election. Now, we're told by our representatives and some of the congresswomen that spoke earlier and some of the senators, and they say that we ran on this pro-choice platform. We owe this to our constituents. But I followed the midterms pretty thoroughly, and I didn't see a single person talk about this bill in the midterms. This bill was not ran on. The concept of pro-choice was ran on. Now, this bill takes Roe v. Wade and expands it to a point where we don't know what the repercussions of that on our society are. This bill pushes it to a point. It doesn't solidify it into our state rights. It pushes the bill to a place where it's never been before. And we don't know the repercussions that that'll have on our society. Also, I think that there's, like Julius was saying, a false sense of urgency that we're going to lose Roe v. Wade, as if there's this malicious agenda to undercut what's been written into our Constitution. I just haven't seen anything that relates to that. As some of you guys have said today, that there are no cases on the ballot. And I think Representative or Senator Lombardi said it pretty well. He says that he's a smart guy. He can see it coming, and if it sneaks up on it, he'll catch it before it gets there. So I don't think that it's something that we have to live like a boogeyman, like it's going to get us. And also, one of the concerning things that I saw when some of these people were up here earlier talking is we see the semblances of voluntary eugenics, where we're talking about desirable traits, whether a child will be born poor. Well, it's the quality of life will be born if the baby has into a low-income society. Well, we're talking voluntary eugenics, where we're deciding quality of life. And for me, the fear is that voluntary eugenics will slowly slip into state-demanded eugenics, where if you don't reach a certain income, if you don't reach a certain IQ, it's just like the founder of Planned Parenthood says, they want to, from the beginning, Planned Parenthood has had a strict plan for forced eugenics. Margaret Sanger was a firm believer in birth licenses. She didn't even believe in the fundamental human right of motherhood. And now we're told that, oh, well, the organization has changed. It's new people. They don't think that anymore. Yet what is all of this that we're seeing now? They're saying that, oh, we're compassionate because we don't want the poor family to have the baby. Oh, we're now before it was hatred. We didn't want the poor people to have babies because we thought they weren't good for society. But now we're so loving. We don't want them to have the babies because it's not good for them. The baby won't be happy. The baby will have a poor quality of life. And we're told to say, well, you have the same thing that you've been saying for years, yet now you're loving about it. And it's very hard to accept that. It's very hard to look forward and say that, okay, New York passes this, Virginia passes this, Rhode Island proposes it. All within the span of 2 months, it doesn't seem like this is representing the Rhode Island people. It seems like a calculated attack on life by the DNC in all of their states. And I think that if we push this forward, if we expand the liberties, if we leave the moral justifications up to the doctors who were not elected, so if we have a doctor choosing who lives, a doctor choosing who dies, I think it's important to remember that some of the most morally corrupt people in our history have been doctors. We don't even trust our pharmaceutical companies, yet we trust doctors to decide when it's in the best interest to have a baby. And then we have another doctor coming up, and I'm sorry if I'm going long, but we have a doctor who's an OBGYN coming up, and he's saying to us that as a doctor, he doesn't know when a woman's healthy, the woman knows. That's a preposterous claim. Why should he be a doctor then? If I go to a doctor and he tells me that only I know when I'm healthy, then what did you go to school for? What am I paying you for? What is your purpose in society? Like, it's such a delusional disconnect from reality to say that only a woman knows what is healthy for a woman. Yet, on the same strand, we tell her thousands of things that aren't healthy for her. You can't drive 100 miles an hour. You can't take heroin. You can't do many things. We tell people so many times what is and what isn't healthy. But when we get here, men especially are told that we can't talk. That when the children are dying, that when we see these things happening, that we have to sit down and be quiet. Yet we have the same gumption to look back into civilizations that commit genocide and say, where were you? Why weren't you standing up? Where were all the people in Nazi Germany? Well, I wonder if maybe people will look back on us that way and say, where are the people standing up? And we'll say, well, gee, we were told that we didn't have voices. We were told that we didn't even know morality. As men, we couldn't speak up about our children, about our futures, about who we are leaving in this planet. I think it's very important that this bill be slowed down. We don't need to pass this. As many people have said, there's no immediate danger to, as they say, female reproductive rights, the freedom. There's so many terms. It's mind-boggling to keep up with all these terms. I say we just slow down, keep all the terms out of it, and look at what is good for Rhode Island. Just because you ran on pro-choice doesn't mean that people want this. 71% are for abortion, 73% are against late-term abortion. We need to talk about these things. We need time.